Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Noel Zone. We are here to talk about the greatest sequels of all time. So we want to get you all involved as much as we can. So let us know what your favorite or greatest sequels are, and we'll have Christian joining me pretty soon. The suggestion came in from WC Reviews, so I want to give John a shout out there for suggesting this topic. And as I said, if you do have any suggestions, we will, of course, look into them, and obviously, if there are topics that we think people will like, we will cover them. So I just want to let obviously John know that we're doing this stream. So just bear with us for a second, because it was his suggestion, and hopefully he comes in to the chat. But the Garbage says hi chat. I give three. Hello again with Shelley Long. Back to the Future 2, Terminator 2, and Superman 2. Well, I'm going to start off actually before Christian comes on to start giving his suggestions. But for me, I think, as you know yourselves, not only am I a Doctor Who fan per se, I'm actually a big Trekkie, as you all know. So for me, the greatest sequel to a movie would have to be Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, because obviously the first movie, even though I do have a soft spot for that movie, let's be honest, it wasn't well received. So for me, the second movie of the Trek franchise with the original crew, The Wrath of Khan, is up there as one of the greatest sequels in my opinion. Garbage's Back to the Future 2, Terminator 2, and Superman 2. See, this is where I'm going to look this, because there's going to be a debate. Because for me, it's Back to the Future, then Back to the Future 3, and then it's Back to the Future 2. That's where I would list them. I actually think Back to the Future 3 is a better movie than 2. Even the guys behind the second movie said it was rushed, and there was a lot of other things they wanted to do in that movie. But I don't know. That would be that's an interesting one. Terminator 2. I sent you the link if you're listening. I sent you the link in messages, but I'll send it again. Obviously there's something going on. So apparently my co-host hasn't got the link, so just bear with me for a second. I did send it on Facebook, but with everything on my computer, you know how things are. So I'll send it again. Just bear with me, folks. Terminator 2, definitely a great sequel. Is it better than the first one? I mean, there's a bit debate to be had there. I know a lot of people would say, that Terminator 2 is better than Terminator. But Terminator is such a classic thriller. It's with the sci-fi mixed in, and it's I would say it's more gory than the second one. Second one is more action based. It's the same with Alien and Aliens. So there you go. So I did a link to you, but it hasn't shown. It's not showing up on you. That's weird. Right, there you go, Christian. It says it's sent to you there. I'll even take a photograph, but your chat is acting all funny because There, I've sent the link. It says it's sent, and I don't know what's wrong. It says it's sent. I don't know. Zuckerberg's Zuckerberg. So what do you expect? So let's bring him in.
No, StreamYard is just being a butt these days. I'm just like, I don't even trust it to do line laundry.
Superman 2, though, better than Superman, the movie. I don't know about that one. Even though I do like Superman 2, and I adore that movie. Is it better than the original? I don't know. But again, debates to have. Not Grease 2. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that one, garbage. Back to the Future 2 was definitely my favorite. T2, Back to the Future 2, and Beneath the Planet of the Apes, all watched in cinema, says Peter. Controversial. I love the new Star Trek 2 movie, Into Darkness. Sorry, it's action all the way. Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, Chris Persia. That's a good shout, actually. I would say that is actually better than the first movie. I found the first movie a bit boring, to be quite honest with you. I did mention the Wrath of Khan. I think that's one of the greatest sequels ever made because the first movie wasn't great. Let's be honest, Chris. But I do have a soft spot.
Can I intercede something? Because you mentioned Superman and Superman 2 and Star Trek and Star Trek 2 on this one. I think, in essence, they're kind of in the same. Whereas Star Trek was kind of putting things back together and trying to, as far as the motion of those two movies, you kind of got the same thing from Superman and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I think as far as the movement of the story, because they were kind of like, I don't want to say reinventing themselves, but they were laying the foundation for their second movies to come up, and that's when everything really took off. Because now you had the 3 from Krypton and Superman 2, so you upbeat the game a lot more. Now everything's laid out the foundation, who Lois Lane is, everything about the Daily Planet, where he comes from. And Star Trek, the motion picture, they brought Spock back on, they brought Bones back on, and they were kind of getting back to their original Star Trek roots, where they were laying the foundation, whereas Wrath of Khan, now we're in motion. Now we've got a character bringing him back and really getting more into the action scene. So I can see that, but that's my comparison, my opinion on that one. But I don't think they're as bad as, Star Trek 1, if you look at it, it will never rival 2 in my eyes, but it's really, I think to compare the two is, I think, is a disjustice to 1, because 1 really had its own story. It just wasn't the action pack that we were, as a society now that we were looking into. Now we get into the new Star Trek, which is more action based. It's more, it's not the original Star Trek from the original series. There's more action and more things going on, but it kind of left that for what we liked about the original series. It was trying to make its own way. That's my opinion on the both of them. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's how I see those two movies. I think they're identical in just the pacing of how they were moving, but that's not to say that one was worse than the other.
So it's a different take. I'll say that. I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with you to a certain extent, but I mean, like, I do have a soft spot for Star Trek movie. And it did have its problems, and costume design was a bit weird. Set design, didn't really like the set, to be quite honest with you. But other than that, I mean, yeah, you're right. If you look at the first movie, it really is kind of just a sci-fi movie. There is no, it's like one. There is no action. You're right. Whereas the second one, there's a little bit more going on with it, and as you said as well, they did bring back an old character from the original series. So that was always going to pique a lot of people's interest. But I still do think it's a far superior movie than the first one. And I do think, so, I mean, Terminator 2, Oh, it's a debate. I mean, Predator. I know everybody loves Predator, but I prefer Predator too. So, I mean, am I right? A lot of people would think I was wrong because, being honest with you, I think a lot of people consider Predator the far superior movie. But I love the second movie with Danny Glover. It's bleeding brilliant movie. Love it, man. I think it's or in the urban environment. I think it's a lot more gritty than the Force movie. Got to be honest. And there's JWC reviews who came up with today's topic. Talk about the sequels, and hopefully JWC will give us his opinions. The Godfather 2, now will agree with you with. I don't think there is any argument that The Godfather 2 is better than The Godfather 1. It's actually a great trilogy, though. I mean, that movie trilogy is what I consider perfect, like Back to the Future trilogy. You just don't touch those movies, you know? They're trilogies that you just don't touch. Rafa Khan establishes Trek's future, but the fourth Trek movie is wonderful, says Peter Harrington. So there you go. There's someone there that actually prefers the Force movie, and you know, we all have different tastes. I mean, I have a thought. Look, I watch that. Listen, if I watch the whole movies again, I always start with the original movie anyway. You have to, you know. Even though in the second one you could tell it's completely different in tone, and they are, like as Christian said, there is a point to be made. It is, you know, they were kind of re-established these characters after a long time in the Force movie. So there is an argument to be made. But get in user sequels. Come on, the French Connection 2 movie. The French Connection 2 is a good, fun movie, but is it better than the original? That's what we're asking you here today. What is the greatest sequels? What are your favorite sequels? What do you think is the greatest sequels? And what's your personal favorites? Right, so there's loads of little facets there. Someone wrote Finding Dory. No. No, I do love the Wrath of Khan, says Peter. Yeah, it is a great movie. But what other sequels are better than their original? What other sequels are out there that are better than their originals? I'm trying to actually think.
I just typed in the chat. I know we're on opposite ends. You like one better than two. I like two better than one. But again, this is not disavowing or displacing one. One set the standard to make two a better movie. One wrote the script, put the characterizations in, and set what we were going to do. So when two came out, we were already on top of the roller coaster. Whereas you're getting that climb up the roller coaster. Two starts it off right at the pinnacle when you're about to drop. Chris. You know what, Chris? Guilty pleasure. That's what I'm saying. Guilty pleasure.
Cape Fear, the remake De Niro, but better than the Force. But it is a sequel. Okay. I mean, Cape Fear is a great movie. I mean, I've seen both versions, but De Niro. I mean, you don't get a bad movie from De Niro. I mean, I don't think there is any. He just, like, he's gone into comedy a bit more, which I don't like him in, because I prefer him to still do the I know he doesn't want to, he's typecast anyway, no matter what he says. But I prefer him doing his monster roles, but without the comedy. You know, that's just me. Sequels. Oh, I'm just trying to think. I did start off with an easy one. Okay, here's one for you actually that I think is better than the original, and I'm going to be slated for this one. But I think Batman Returns is better than Batman 89. Yes, there you go, I said it. Seriously, I think the second movie with the Penguin and Catwoman is a much better movie.
And it's one of those. It's
also got that iconic scene with the penguins. They actually used real penguins. That scene. There was no CGI. I remember it was big news at the time. They literally used all those penguins for that scene. Mm-hmm. That's an iconic movie. I don't care. Seriously, I know Warner Brothers weren't happy with it because it kind of went a bit darker than the first movie. But I loved that second movie. I went to see that movie. That movie just blew me away. I'm not messing. I mean, blew me away. And of course, it didn't help that I had a huge crush on Michelle Pfeiffer at the time. She's playing Catwoman. So all me dreams, the secretary and Catwoman, all me fantasies came true in one movie.
Well, again, that's one laying the foundation for two, and I still can't get over the cringe moment. Plus, one had a little advantage; it had Prince music. I like Prince, but I still can't get over that one cringe moment when the the bat plane is firing every missile, every gun, every turret at the Joker, and the Joker just whips out this long nose revolver and takes out the wing. I'm like, what? How is that even a thing? But I guess that's got to work for the story. So I'm just like, okay, this is.
I mean, it even flies up in line with the moon to make the bat signal in one of the movies. I mean, it's ridiculous, but at the end of the day, that's what makes that movie. I mean, that scene's iconic with the Joker, though. I mean, it is ridiculous. You are right taking out that big long. And I even remember watching it as a kid, say, this is bleeding ridiculous. But it's something you would expect the Joker to do. Do you know what I mean? In this make-believe world. So I bought it. I bought it. I think, look, the second one is definitely better. I think the second one has a much better story as well. So yeah, Batman Returns for me is a better movie than the original. But again, Christian is right. All of these movies, look, let's just assume that all of these movies set the foundation for the sequel, right? Because that's going to pop up all the time, right? All we're concerned about is the second movie better than the first? Because we know all of these the first movies either lay the foundation or well, I mean, they did Nightmare on Elm Street and then they did sequels. I mean, that was a one-off movie franchise, in my opinion, just like the Halloween franchise, but they got sequels. But in saying that, though, if we go into the horror genre, I do think the second movie is better than the first movie. Or is it the third movie? Which one's the Dream Warriors? Nightmare on Elm Street.
They had so many dream things, the Dream Warriors, the Dreams. I think it's a third. If somebody wants to correct me, fine.
Let me see. So we got Nightmare on Elm Street. Here we go. Yeah, we won't talk about the 2010 remake. Jeez.
I think the fourth and the fifth one. I'm just like, okay, I think we're not even jumping the shark anymore. We're just straining that shark to keep going a little more.
Right. So it was. Oh, Jesus. I go into the wiki and you think it'd be easy just to tell me, like, I don't really give a shit about that other shit. I just want to know there's 6 of those or 7 of those movies anyway. I binged them all 1 year. And I actually did, the Dream Warriors was the third one. So the third one was better than the first one, which was better than the second one. So that, I don't really think that counts though, because, it's the third sequel in the franchise. But someone did mention Jaws and Jaws 2, right? And I don't know where you guys are on this, but all I will say is this. This is my opinion on it. The second movie is literally a rehash of the first movie. And in the second movie, they didn't recapture what they did in the first movie. I mean, they came pretty close. But the first Jaws movie, look at forget about the sequels, man. Right, this is a one-off movie as well, by the way, that got a franchise. But the first movie is far superior than the second movie. There's no way that anybody could tell me that Jaws 2 is better than the first Jaws, because it's not. It actually isn't. It's not. You watch the two movies again, right, and watch them back to back. It's not. And the first movie is just far superior and always will be. Great movie, great movie. But I do like the second one, but it's a rehash. It's a rehash, and it's more screaming kids in the second one as well, which kind of annoyed me. It was all the kids, and you know, back in those days, 70s and 80s, they always had the screaming college girls, and that was going through my head in the second movie because we're all on the boats. Remember, stuck on the boats, screaming their fucking heads off, like. So that pissed me off. I wanted Jaws to eat them all. That was the thing. In the first movie, I wanted Jaws to be killed. By the second time, the second movie came around, I wanted Jaws to eat them all up. And then we won't talk about the third movie. Or that ridiculous fourth movie. Oh, Jesus, a shit killer white chap goes to the Caribbean. What were they thinking? Jesus Christ. Anyway.
They weren't. They were saying let's squeeze this cow for what's left of the milk.
That's it.
And it was like they even try. And I was watching a video. They had a totally different concept for the fourth movie because I think the Michael Caine character was more of a scoundrel. There were drugs involved. It was supposed to be surrounded by. I'm not kidding you. According to this documentary, it was supposed to be a plot of voodoo. Where
that would have been great, though, man.
It was supposed to be, yeah, supposedly. I guess what do they call not the voodoo priestess, but the men who do the voodoo.
You know what could be well? Drug smuggling. Jaws is attacking these drug smugglers on a boat in the middle of it. It'd be plain deadly, man. I'd watch that. Anybody to watch drug smugglers get their comeuppance would be a great movie.
Well, they referred to remember when he's they're in the plane and it's Michael Caine and the mother and the son are in the plane, and the son asks him, "What kind of business do you do?" And he says, "Laundry." That was actually supposed to be reflective of that. His character
money laundering.
Yeah, it was supposed to be totally different, and somehow the mother got involved. And there was a story about how the voodoo priest, had control of the great white shark and steered it. That's what the story was supposed to be. And I was just like, this is really, I don't know what was off the cliff.
Jaws on LSD. Anyway.
Cocaine shark.
They're actually doing that next.
Yeah.
So here's a question. I'm going to name sequels, yay or nay, in the chat. So we've mentioned The Godfather 2, Terminator 2. Is Aliens a better sequel to Alien, the original movie? Yes or no? I would say no, personally. I think you'll never beat the first movie. I think the first movie for me is the ultimate movie when it comes to sci-fi horror genre. I think it is the movie. That is the movie for me, personally. So I don't think it's better than Aliens. But I do love Aliens, of course, and I watch the extended cut. I watch the extended cut of all the movies because that's the only cuts to watch of these movies. But Aliens is not better than Alien. No way. Sorry, but that's just me. The people in the chat, that's difficult. Two different genres. That's what I mean, because the sequel, Aliens, is action sci-fi, whereas Alien is horror sci-fi, right? And obviously Alien was a B movie as well and had a budget of what, $30 million, whereas the second one had a bigger budget. I think it had 3 or 4 times the budget, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean it make it a worse movie. And don't get me wrong, the James Cameron sequel is brilliant. I love that fucking movie. Seriously, I really do. But the first one for me, you can't beat it. Here's an interesting one. Toy Story 2. Is it better than Toy Story?
Well, to answer your first question, I can't really compare Aliens to Aliens 2. They're kind of the same thing going on, but the stakes are a little different. They're both in their right. They're really good movies. Again, we're going from something that laid the groundwork and then ran with it. And then you got really some good actors. The guy from Twister, I can't think of his name, but I think, wasn't that his first movie, or wasn't that his first breakthrough movie? And it raised the stakes. And I think Newt even played a really great role, because now the first one, it was a cat. Now it's a girl. So, and it really raised the stakes on Ripley. And then when you get to the end, it's a mother against mother type fight. And you have that famous line that's been running through the ages: "Get away from her, you." And that what sealed the deal for Aliens for me, because it had different stakes. At some point, it's like, when a movie gets to the point where you just like, off them. I want the monster to win, like, was it Attack the Block? I'm like, go ahead, wipe them out. I don't care. I don't like any of these characters. They're not redeemable. Take them out. I root for the aliens. But when a movie can make me sit there and worry about the main characters to the point where I'm just falling off the seat watching, then yes.
A more recent modern movie, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, I would have to actually agree with that. I think The Dark Knight is a great sequel to Batman Begins. And I think it is the best ever Batman movie made, in my opinion. The Dark Knight. Obviously, Heath Ledger playing the Joker in that movie. Unbelievable. Still, to me, up there as my favorite Joker, I have to say, even though I do love, and I grew up with Jack Nicholson's Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, for me, I just loved it. I love this movie. I watched Batman Begins and The Dark Knight just a couple of days ago. I've finished the third one now, but I watched the second one, and again, that movie is just everything about that movie is just epic. So yeah, I'd have to agree with that one. This is a list, by the way, that I found of greatest sequels, and it's from actually, it doesn't say where the list is made from. So I'm going to call these out and tell me if you agree or not. So I would have to agree with that. What do you think on Batman Begins and Dark Knight? Do you think The Dark Knight is one of the greatest sequels to a trilogy?
I think in the case, because I'm here. I just really had to think about it. I want some time to think about this, because one of the greatest things about that movie was Heath Ledger and his interpretation of the Joker. It was phenomenal. And I was one of those, like, wait, you're making Heath Ledger? That was First Night or whatever?
I know. Do you remember the backlash when he became the Joker? And then, I mean, for an actor to do that, because everybody was picturing Heath Ledger, unfortunately, in that, what was that Western that he did, the cowboy thing, the one about the two gay cowboys.
Oh, Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain, right? So everybody was seeing him as this character out of Brokeback Mountain and didn't think that he could play the Joker. Remember, there was a lot of bleeding controversy when he got this role. But of course, look, Christopher Nolan never really casts a dud in his movie. So, his performance alone, I know he won the Oscar, but you know what pisses me off? I wish he had been alive to see if he actually would have won that Oscar, because to me, he should have won that. He would have won that Oscar either way. But would they have gave him the Oscar if he hadn't have passed away? And that's what pisses me off, because I do believe that performance. I mean, I watched it again. The story he tells about the scars. First, it's his wife, right? No, first it's his dad. His dad and the mother or something won't smile or something, and then the second one is his wife. His wife is depressed, and he wants her to smile, and he does the thing with the razor blade. I mean, it's just brilliant. I mean, and when he first walks into the room with the gangsters, and he puts the pencil down, I'm going to show you a magic trick. Take this pen, and then it's just everything about him, man.
Well, this is not the first time. It's not the first movie, but it's not the first time Batman has had the controversial actor. I mean, Michael Keaton, when he was introduced to the role, everybody thought the comedian, the Mr. Mom, Gung Ho, all those movies. Wait a minute, we're taking a comedian and we're going to make him the Dark Knight? Are you serious? And then everybody went into the movie. What was it? One of the biggest blockbusters, if not the blockbuster of its time.
Yeah, they actually rushed out. It was so much of a panic that Warner Brothers actually rushed out a trailer. The trailer's still up today, and you watch it. There's no background music. There's no proper background voiceover. It's just pieces of the movie stuck together to make this trailer, just to show people what Michael Keaton is like as the Dark Knight. Because you are right. I mean, there was nearly riots. There was letters sent to their head officers. What you doing casting this clown as the Dark Knight? Have you lost his or marbles? Or like, there was literally people losing their absolute crap over that casting. And of course, Michael Keaton proved everybody thankfully wrong, because I mean, he still is. I mean, Christian Bale I love as well as Batman. I know people go mad about the voice, but I don't mind that shit. But yeah, it's Michael Keaton, then Christian Bale for me, and then I'll throw Ben Affleck in there, and that's just the movie ones. Obviously, the TV ones and the animation ones are completely different. But all right, here's one. Agree with this one as well. Star Wars, obviously the original, and then you had The Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, I think we'd all be in agreement on that one, that The Empire Strikes Back is a better movie than the original, A New Hope. Christian, what do you think? Or have you got a different opinion on that one? Is A New Hope better than The Empire Strikes Back, or is The Empire Strikes Back a great sequel? One of the greatest sequels.
See, these are one of those movies that I hate to compare those two, because they stand on their own prefaces. They're not, and you can't help it, and I do too. We all compare them, but they're in their own right good movies. In their own right, that they are wonderful movies. But if you want to say, if like Wrath of Khan and all of that, those sequels had the privilege of coming before a movie that set the platform. So all we had to do was, we already knew what was going on. We already had the idea. Now the characters are already written out. We just had to make sure that there was a really good story and the stakes were raised. And that's what I think any sequel should do. But to disavow the first movie of any kind that sets that precedence, I think is, me personally, I think it's disservice. But however, you can't help yourself. It's just being human. It's just like comparing.
I don't think when you compare sequels, people are disavowing the original. I mean, without the original, there wouldn't be a sequel. You're absolutely right there. But I mean, we're just kind of trying to judge them. Is it better than the original movie? And I think it is. So even though I'm not a Star Wars fan, as I've made very clear, I do prefer and enjoy The Empire Strikes Back a lot more than the original Star Wars. Again, I find the original Star Wars movie boring, whereas the second movie I actually find really exciting. And I don't think we are this. I mean, you're right. We can't help. We're always going to compare, but I don't think there is that, and I don't think there's that wrong with that. Really, personally, I just think it's the first one does, as you said, set up. But I mean, if the second one is better, I don't think there's any harm in saying. For example, a movie where the sequel wasn't great. You had Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then you had Temple of Doom, which isn't a great sequel. If you look at it, I recently rewatched it. It's not a great sequel at all, actually. I have to say, The Last Crusade is a much better movie than Temple of Doom. So again, I think when we're comparing, here's the thing as well. I mean, some original movies, yeah, they end up being decent movies. Some are iconic, but some sequels do end up being better than the original. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. It's just, it's like, for example, here's another one, Top Gun, right? And you've got Maverick. I think everybody be in agreement that Maverick is the much better film, and actually Top Gun looks like a corny, cheesy piece of crap. But we all loved it, and we all grew up with it. But then we saw Maverick, which I think is a much better sequel. It actually it's better. It surpasses the original in every way. It's a far superior movie. So for me, that's another one. That's I don't know what you guys in the chat think, but I think Top Gun Maverick is better than Top Gun in every way. Peter says Empire as well. He Burton got thousands of letters complaining about Keaton. Exactly, man. Loads of complaints there was. Aliens 2 is more action. The Force is more horror. Exactly, horror sci-fi. Whereas the second one is more action-based with your sci-fi horror. And they're slightly are. I will agree with Christian on this. Movies like Alien and Aliens are kind of hard to judge because, one is sci-fi horror, whereas the other one is slightly in a different genre. If you look at it, it kind of is. And then the third one then kind of tries to go back to its horror roots, but then the studio stick their nose in and it becomes an absolutely horrible movie. But we won't get into that one. Superman 2 is actually on this list. I wouldn't agree with that. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Ooh, is it better than the original Captain America? See, all of those movies, in my opinion, the Captain America movies improved as they went on. I mean, the first one's a great movie. I mean, the second one, all the Captain America movies are actually decent movies. I actually think out of all of the movies that Marvel did, the Captain America movies were the ones that I actually enjoyed the most. Even Thor had problems with their sequels, but I don't think Captain America had such problems. So I think that's a bit of a hard one to throw in that list because I think all three movies have their own unique thing in the movie that makes them good. And then, like, all three are well written. So, I mean, someone put in the original Spider-Man trilogy. So they're saying Spider-Man 2 was better than Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire ones. I don't know about that.
I was okay with those movies. I wasn't like thrilled. I was just like,
yeah. I mean, look, I have a soft spot for the Tobey Maguire movies. The third one's a shambles, right? Just let's be honest about it.
Yes.
The second one's not. The second one's not bad, but I prefer the Amazing Spider-Man. That was my movie. But the second,
seen Andrew yet. I have not seen his interpretation.
But the second one, this is where Sony got it wrong, right? They always did a decent first Spider-Man movie. They've always done a decent first Spider. Even the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, right, is a decent movie. The problem is the sequels. They fuck up the sequels, right? They did it with Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. They screwed that sequel up just like they screwed the Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire sequels. So, I think they've had better luck with Tom Holland, but still, there's just something lacking about those Spider-Man movies. So I just can't put my finger on it, but I don't know. Maybe that's me.
Well, the irony of it is that we, how well did No Way Home do? And that had all three Spider-Mens in it, and I don't want to say we kind of forgave things, but we were kind of, wow, okay, here's a new dimension.
Well, it was done, because it was done, but in fairness to the people behind that movie, right, it wasn't done for any cheap tricks. Okay, it might have originally started out for that because they were panicking, right? There was panic because the industry, let's be honest, movies were flopping, and they didn't want this movie to flop, right? And they were denying all the leaks, even though, like, all these people were adamant that these other lads were coming into the movie, and they turned out to be all telling the truth, right? Every single one of them, which is brilliant. They even got a trailer in Brazil that was poorly edited that they thrown out that proved that the other Spider-Man were going to be in the movie before we'd even seen the second trailer, right? So they ruined that, right? But they were spot on. Look, I got to be honest with you, right? I went into this movie not expecting much, but what made this movie different to the, like, for example, now I haven't watched it, but I've seen the clips. For example, like the Flash movie now, is the Flash movie, the people behind that panicked because of Ezra Miller, and then they injected all these different cameos in it, right? Just to try drag the audience in. Whereas I don't think this was the same for this Spider-Man movie. I think they genuinely wanted to give the fans a treat. And yes, there was a bit of panic behind it as well, because obviously movies were flopping all over the place and they didn't want to have a big flop. So they took the gamble and it paid off. And you know what? That movie has heart. That movie is actually, it has a lot of heart. And I'm not going to, look, Spider-Man's not my favorite character, right? I can be honest with you, Spider-Man's not my favorite character, but I do like that last movie. I really do. I have a soft spot for it. And to see three Spider-Mans, three generations of different Spider-Mans, especially because we grew up with Tobey Maguire, obviously, our age group, we grew up with him. He was our Spider-Man. And then you got Andrew Garfield there, and now we got Tom Holland, who is the current Spider-Man. So you had three generations of Spider-Man come together. And I thought it was great, and it was very well done. And, as I said, that movie had heart. Think about the conversations the three Spider-Mans have with each other when they're talking about their loved ones. That's a lovely scene. I mean, that movie doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. I think it's a beautiful movie. But, of course, it doesn't qualify for sequels, folks. So I don't know how because I brought up Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire ones. But yeah, it's a great movie. Let's see. I just see I have a private chat, so let's read that.
A couple of things there. One, not only was a great idea, and to me, when people say, "Oh, they were leaking," or "We found leak tapes," I kind of disavow those now, because you never know when the studio is leaking themselves. Like, they generate an interest. The studios will go like, "Hey, there's this rumor that the other two Spider-Men are going to be on," and then all of a sudden this picture out of nowhere shows up. Oh, look at this leaked photo. I'm like, how is it leaked? Who sent it out?
I agree with you. Look, the studio played. Look, Doctor Who does it as well, right?
Yeah, they do. Everybody does.
They all do. They leak a certain amount of stuff because they want to get the hype going. And remember, there was huge hype when all of these leaks were coming, so-called leaks were coming out, and everybody was reporting on it. It even made the hype for the movie even more so. But what the film did, what other movies that don't do that have a hype around them, a lot of these movies don't live up to the hype. But this movie did live up to the hype. It really actually did live up to the hype. I can't believe how much I'm actually praising this movie.
The other thing about this movie, the Far From Home, or No Way Home, is that you could see three different Peter Parkers. They were they weren't the same Peter Parker. They weren't acting as the same Peter Parker. You had Andrew's Peter Parker, who was kind of like, always down on himself, and I think it's coming from because he lost Gwen, and that was just the way that he had his characterization. You had Tobey Maguire, who you could tell that time has really matured him from the third movie. It's like, he's not that dancing, wacko kid. He's actually matured. He's grown up a little more. And the Tom Holland is, because he's the center point of all three of the Spider-Men, he is coming across what they've already gone through. So when he loses Aunt May and the other two console him, they're like, we know what you're going through. We've done it.
Yeah.
They're even finishing their own lines, or they're repeating what they've been through before, or how in the scene where Andrew catches MJ and he starts bawling because he got his redemption by saving MJ because he couldn't save him. So
that's what I mean. There's so many little facets to that movie like there is, Christian. We should actually do a stream separately on that movie one week because
Sure.
there's so much going on in that movie, and it's so well written. And yeah, everybody was hyped trying to deliver it, but nobody still talked. That is a shame. It was, I think, for me personally, this was the best Spider-Man movie, right? And listen, I've watched I've watched the old Spider-Mans, and I'm not talking about Tobey Maguire. I'm talking about the TV movies and that they made back in the day, right? I've watched them all. This is the best Spider-Man movie, in my opinion. I love it. I adore it. There's so much going on in that movie. Out of the two Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies, the second one is more spectacular. So you're saying the second one, the sequel to it, is better than the. I like both movies. I mean,
I think they're equal in their own right. They're kind of almost the same in the same essence, even though they're kind of pasting copies from two other episodes of Doctor Who made into movies.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and we got Bernard Cribbins out of it, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, it's again, one's not superior to the other. They're just different in their own right. And I think that's a terminology I'm trying to use when it comes to movies and their sequels. But they're just two different movies in their own right, and they stand by themselves. And I think they tell their own stories, and they're independent too. Because you could not even you could have started with two, and not even have known one, and you kind of got what was going on out there to the point. Whereas in the first one, he's explaining everything away to how the TARDIS works and all that stuff, but you could have just had two, and no explanation of the TARDIS too much, and then kept going. The audience already knew, but he didn't, and we just ran with it. Okay, so no, I apologize. I got to cut off.
Yeah, no, it's grand. I see the job. What we'll do is, right, obviously we'll call this part one, so I'll edit it so it says part one, and we'll continue this conversation next week. So that gives you all time in the chat to get some other suggestions, maybe some that we didn't mention today, maybe some less known movies that have sequels that you think are better than the original. Let us know. So come and join us next Tuesday for that. But we let Christian do his shout outs. He's having internet problems. And to be quite honest with you, when StreamYard first started out, StreamYard was great, right? But they started, just because it's getting more popular, they've added all of these different things to it now. And unfortunately, what it's done is unbalanced the whole thing, in my opinion. They'll eventually get around to fixing it, but I'm paying for this shit, so they want to fix it.
They've been really good in the past. They've been really good about fixing.
Oh no,
no, it's my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi, I know, is working.
Listen, in fairness, their customer service is great. I'm not going to bash them because they've been very good to me. Their customer service, anytime I've had a complaint or something's not right, you can write to them and they'll respond back to you within a couple of minutes. So I'm not going to knock them. They've done a lot for me here, but you need to get your shit together because, yes, you're a very handy tool. But, you got a lot more people using you now. So, think about the ones that are actually paying for it, yeah? So fix your crap. Anyway, do your channel shout out there, Christian, and we will wrap up this evening.
Well, for those of you who are celebrating happy Doctor Who podcast day, and I'm just learning about this myself today on another channel. I think it will be at the Spacebook. I'm still learning about this, but we're going to be celebrating Doctor Who podcast day. You're more than welcome to come. Today, it's supposed to be starting a long episode, and Dan from the Spacebook will be interviewing other Doctor Who podcasters throughout the universe about their shows and stuff in a celebration to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like I said, I'm getting information trickling in. The first Doctor Who to ever podcast was Doctor Who Podshock, and they premiered tomorrow, August 9th. I forgot. I think it was like 2005 or something like that. And we will be having a special episode of The Traveling TARDIS, where it's going to be the reverse. You're going to get to interview us, and more or less, you're going to interview our team. We've never really had a day where people could just come in and ask questions for the team and ask them about how they got on and stuff. So I will be actually interviewing our Doctor Who Legend of the Traveling TARDIS team about how they became Whovians, where they got their start, and why they joined the podcast. And you get to have an open discussion forum to talk to these folks. And that will be premiering tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, 11 p.m. UK. And tonight, I believe the Doctor Who podcast day is going to be starting at 4 p.m. your time. I think no 9. I think no 4 p.m. my time, 9 p.m. your time. So check it out on the Facebook, and please, for Noel myself, if you like and celebrate what we do, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. As always, we always support that, because the more people come on, the more that we know that we're appreciated, and we get our voices and your voices out there on the Whoniverse Net and everywhere else, and we can have more shows like this where we're talking just Grease 2 is a masterpiece.
Unknown.
Well, it does have Michelle Pfeiffer, so
listen. He's only doing this because the wife has said she prefers this movie over the first movie, and I absolutely adore the first movie, and I find the second one an abomination. So he just came in here to store it, didn't you? Unknown. Grease 2 will always be an abomination. Okay, will always be an abomination. When that movie was made, I heard Jesus wept when he watched it. Right?
Well,
That's how much of a disappointment that movie was. Jesus wept.
It was the first movie of Michelle Pfeiffer, though. But your
It
girl,
was our
secretary, so you're Catwoman. So everybody, please make sure on both the Noel Zone and
she was hot in that movie, though. I'm not gonna lie.
No, yeah, they were trying to find the new Olivia Newton-John, and there was a second.
Oh, Olivia Newton-John, yeah.
But
no wonder she didn't sign up for the sequel.
Please subscribe to our channels. Please like and comment even after the show, because we want to keep doing this. And I'll see you guys next week. And take care of yourself, Noel. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
Have a good one, Christian. Have a good one. Right, so we'll do a second part to this stream, of course. And as I said, there's obscure movies out there that you've seen. Obviously, unless you've seen them, don't just come in and say, oh, well, this movie and it has a sequel, and you haven't watched it. Someone mentioned the Planet of the Apes franchise as well. And, I would actually have to say, just before we leave, and I'm talking about, obviously, I watched the Charlton Heston movie and all the other movies in that franchise, and then the ill-fated TV show. Watched that as well. Of course, they have energized the Planet of the Apes franchise and done it for a modern audience. Planet of the Apes was deadly. But the second one, was the second one Rise of the Planet of the Apes, was it? Second and third one are actually brilliant. I love the new Planet of the Apes franchise. I can't wait for the fourth movie in the installment to come out. Apparently there is a fourth movie, so I can't wait to see what they do with that. But that's a franchise I really do love. And that iconic scene where Caesar talks for the first time is just... Look, everybody will have their favorite Planet of the Apes. I love the original, and it's still... Look, again, as I said, I haven't been watching. This strike is great, isn't it? This writer strike, because now we can watch what we fucking want. And I've been watching all of these old movies. You know what I watched the other day, actually, before we go? Earthquake. Charlton Heston, Earthquake. I watched The Towering Inferno. I watched, obviously, Airport. That movie franchise as well a couple of weeks ago. And Timmy Shed. I never watched the A-Team movie, the one with Liam Neeson. because I always had this impression that it was going to be an absolute crap movie. But I finally watched it, and oh my god, I never laughed so much in all my life. I never. Oh my god, I just forgot how. I just why they didn't get a sequel, which you can kind of understand though, because the end of it kind of explains, the soldiers of fortune, just like the TV show and stuff. But they could have done a couple of sequels to that franchise, because the first movie was fun. I know there's a whole scene in the tank, which is a bit ridiculous, but at the same time, it's a brilliant movie. Listen, I wasn't expecting it. So then after the movie, I decided I'd go and check out the A-Team again. And all I'll just say is, right, I'll leave with this. We're going to do a stream. TV shows, right? TV shows will be cancelled today. TV shows that were written today, written exactly the way they were back in the day, written today, they'd be cancelled. And let me just tell you that the A-Team would qualify for that. Because in the first 4 episodes, there was blackface. There was he was dressed as a Chinaman. I mean, there was literally everything going on this TV show. This TV show wouldn't be made today. It'd be cancelled. So maybe we should do stuff like that. But seriously, man, fun movie. And I start watching, obviously, the A-Team again, which I've got to be honest, right? Maybe it's because I am older, but this is the one TV show that, to me, hasn't aged well. And it seems a bit too corny. But that's what we grew up with. But I'm liking things like TJ Hooker and stuff, other programs that we grew up with. But yeah, the A-Team is not as, I hate to say it, but it's not as good as I remember as a kid. Maybe it was just because I was a kid and these men were just brilliant. I mean, look, it's still funny. I mean, Murdoch and BA, I mean, it's brilliant. They're brilliant. The banter between those two, I mean, it is, but it's corny. I mean, they're being chased by the army, right? Okay, they're in this street in New York with these bunch of shoppers that are being extorted for protection by this protection racket. And like they're literally blowing up potholes and blowing up play and like no cops around. No cops. Oh no, look, Buck Rogers, man. Buck Rogers, Jesus Christ, that was essential childhood viewing. That and Alienation. Ice Age 2 is great. I do like the Ice Age. Oh no. I have to be honest with you. I am a fan of the Ice Age franchise. I have to be honest. I'm not going to lie. I love that franchise, believe it or not. That one and Toy Story, I love them. But grown ass man, I love Toy Story and Ice Age. Who cares? Shrek though. I mean, Shrek is just brilliant. I actually like those 3 movies. I know they did more, but they couldn't do a 68 team. It had a budget of 110 million, not including marketing and advertising, and only made it's a shame though, because I don't think that's a bad movie. I actually don't. I was expecting the worst when I went into that movie. I really was. I thought, because Cheryl even slagged me off. You've never watched the A-Team movie? I says, no, I refuse to watch it. And then I was searching for a movie to watch and it popped up and it keeps popping up. So I don't know why, but it kept popping up and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. And it's a great movie, man. It was, and you know what? You know why it probably wouldn't get a sequel? Right? Because they want to wokeify the thing now, right? It was just pure fun action. You got your soldiers, they're being set up. It was great, man. Even the way they came up with a new they refreshed the story a little bit. I bloody loved it, man. It's a pity, man, that movie. That's a movie. I will do movies that should have got sequels. Do a stream in a couple of weeks, right? With that. movies that should have got sequels. That's number one on my list, man. I'm actually pissed that I watched it now because I wanted the second one. But then they do the whole Soldiers of Fortune at the end. Yeah, and you it's just a pity they didn't play the old music though. I was waiting for that to happen and it never really happened. But that, no, seriously, Hannibal Smith didn't think, look, Liam Neeson, perfect casting for Hannibal. I don't care. And your man that Murdoch, I love that South African actor. Anyway, I mean, he's in he's District 9 and other movies. He's just brilliant, man. He played Murdoch brilliant. And you know what? Rampage, what's his name? Rampage Jackson or whatever his bleeding name is. He played a pretty good B.A. Baracus. And again, that movie had a little bit of heart and some serious moments, man. And of course, Bradley Cooper. I mean, Bradley Cooper is like, I mean, that first scene in that movie where he's wrapped in the tires is just brilliant. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting it to be good. The two Lara Croft, they get stick unknown. But I agree with you. I think I don't actually think. Now, if you're talking about the Angelina Jolie movies now, then yes, I agree with you. The Charlie's Angel movies were fun. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, we are going to be here tomorrow with PD and Queen Charlotte. Again for more chit chat, so come and join us. But I want to thank everybody that watched that stream last week. We're nearly up to 500 people that tuned in to actually watch that stream. So I'm a bit, it hasn't happened in the world, us getting numbers like that. So I want to thank everybody that tuned in. I really do enjoy these streams at the start of the week, Tuesdays and Wednesday streams. And of course, then we have Friday night contact as well, which I enjoy. We do the member stream. So I'm actually enjoying, and people seem to be enjoying the streams that we're doing. I know some people are still peed at me because I won't cover you know what. But look, you know, I honestly believe in the stand that I'm making. And, you know, it's just something I personally have to do and take a stand. You have all known me and this channel for taking stands in the past, but never really been convinced to, by all of you guys, to actually change that stance. But I can't change the stance this time. Even if the 6 p.m. ends up being good and everybody tells me, no, you have to watch it, it's not happening. It's not happening. I haven't watched the Flash movie. I have no intentions of watching that, and I haven't even watched or I don't have any, sorry, I haven't watched the Flash movie. I have no intentions of watching Aquaman either, because Amber Heard is in that movie. And it's the same with Doctor Who. If the people behind that show want to support what they support, that's fair enough. That's good on them. And if BBC as an organisation wants to keep covering up for scumbags, then that's fair enough. That's okay. I have every right then to do what I'm doing, which is not watch a made organisation. So I'm done. So we will be back tomorrow with Queen Charlotte and PD. So come and join us for that. And then on Friday, of course, we have the member stream. And then we have Friday night contact, and we have plenty of topics to cover. One of the main topics we will be covering is Neo. So Neo's publicist, actually, just before we go, just so you know what we're actually going to be talking about, and we will do a preview for all you members. So if you're a member, you will get to find out what we're actually going to be talking about, and I will give you my opinion. I'll give my opinion a lot more on the member stream then, because I bring the two lads on then to try to get their opinion. But Neo is in the news this week because his publicist put out a statement on his behalf, saying that he apologized for comments that he made when it came into relation of kids being butchered in the name of the LGBTQ cult. He has now come out to say that it wasn't him, it was his publicist, and he has actually come out and reaffirmed his original comments. Now, he has said he doesn't care. At the end of the day, it's just his opinion. His intention is not to actually, his intention is not to hurt anybody out there or disrespect anybody out there, but he doesn't want to be misrepresented, and he wanted to come out and tell people, look, he will never be comfortable with kids being mutilated, and that's the bottom line. So after me slagging Neo off yesterday, calling him a sellout, turns out his publicist took down the tweet, because unlike other people on Twitter, especially these big accounts, even when they've made a mistake and they've been told they've made a mistake, to keep their original tweet up. But Gobby Guy showed me actually the video. He put up a video statement to say, no, this isn't true. This is me publicist. I took the tweet down, because, you know, at the end of the day, misinformation is misinformation, and you got to take it down. It doesn't matter what side of an argument you're on. You know, misinformation is misinformation, and I hate it. There's a lot of misinformation. And also, I want to talk about your woman that had the freak out on the plane as well on Friday, because I've seen a rather dangerous trend out there. So a woman has a freak out on the plane, and people are still trying to ascertain why she had the freak out on the plane. But this whole thing now has become a bit of a cult, because you have loser fellas in their mammy's basements who have nothing better to do but to toss off to this mentally ill woman, right, and seek her out and dox her, find out where she lives, right, and find the company that she works for. This woman has even had art made in her name, because some men out there, right, are trying to find this vulnerable woman. Now, that says a lot more about the blokes than your woman. That blokes are obsessed with this vulnerable woman, right? And that's what it is. Not going to shy around it, right? This woman has had art done in her name. There's this obsession with her, which I do not get. Leave the fucking woman alone, right? He's a doxter. Now everybody knows where she lives, right? You know the company that she works for. And then in a thread that I actually shared on Twitter, you see them all in the chat saying, oh, get your ass down to Texas, get your ass. Like, leave the woman alone. She had a mental breakdown, but it says more about you guys that you are actually trying to hunt down and track down. This is what they say in the track down this woman, this vulnerable woman, right? And these have all been going around since that incident, right? Obsessed with her. Like, go out and get laid. Or go out and get yourselves a real woman, and stop chasing a woman that you're never going to have a hope in hell in getting anyway. She lives in a $2 million home and is an executive at a big major corporation, right? She wouldn't look at any of you sweaty little dudes at home. She wouldn't look at you for 2 seconds. But you go and you dox this woman because you have this obsession. Now, this is what gives men a bad name, right? Okay, and then you have this very same blokes then that are giving out about women, about how they treat men. Well, maybe check his own fucking behaviour out and stop being creepy little dudes, and leave the woman alone, right? Leave her alone. She had a freak out on the plane, big fucking deal. People freak out all the fucking time, but you're obsessed with this woman. You've even put her in bikinis, right? You have made so-called modern art, right, using AI, right? You have done all, and then you have people literally saying, oh, I need to find this woman, she's beautiful. These are creepy little fuckers. No wonder women out there, these are giving feminists ammunition, yous are. And you're giving us men fucking a bad name, yous creepy little fuckers. Go down and get laid or something. Right? And if you can't get laid, well then, I'm sorry then, there must be something wrong with you. Right? Everybody in 2023 can get laid if you want to get laid. Right? Society is more open than it's ever fucking been. right? You're not getting laid to something fucking wrong with you. Stop obsessing over a vulnerable woman. But that says a lot about these men, that they want to track down a vulnerable woman, right? And this is why these fucking radical feminists go on the way they go on, because of these creepy losers. And that's what they are, they're losers. Get a grip, right? Get a grip. Leave your woman alone and get on with it, right? And leave her. Simple as that. The fact that she's doxed her, the fact that you've actually doxed her is absolutely disgusting. You've doxed the woman because you freak out on the plane. You've got a bit of a hard on, and you've been hunting this woman down for the last few weeks, and nobody thinks that's creepy. A vulnerable woman. She was obviously vulnerable. But yeah, you are chasing after this woman, you doxed her. You created art in her name. And then you wonder why feminists out there think men are creepy. Well done for being the fucking advertisement for them, right? Fucking behaviours ourselves and cop onto our fucking selves and go out and get you our own fucking woman, because she's probably fucking married anyway, right? And if she isn't married, as I said, she wouldn't have any of you sweaty pigs in his fucking basement anyway, right? She'd have a lot more class and a lot more taste. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, like. Unbelievable. Stalkers on the internet. Seriously. Everybody's lost their shit in 2023. People think that's acceptable behavior, by the way. But nobody criticized for criticizing people. That is creepy behavior. That's stalker behavior. If you're intentionally hunting someone down, these are the words they've used, right? And you've spent all your time trying to find this woman, where she lives or workplace, what she eats for her fucking breakfast, right? Then you're a creepy little stalker. You're no different to the blokes that hang out women's fucking windows, creeping through their fucking buttons, right? You're no different. You just do it online. And by the way, I've seen some people that we know in the circles of YouTube that have also engaged in this. That's why I'm saying it, right? People that we know have engaged in this. Anyway, we leave it there because my internet seems to be telling me that my StreamYard is acting all weird. So don't forget to come join me tomorrow with Queen Charlotte, PD Rich. Then we're back on Friday with member stream, and Friday night contact with Lee and PD Rich. And as I said, this is one of the topics that we will be talking about. We'll be talking about Neo and some of the other pop culture stuff that is happening right now. So I'm going to leave it there because it literally looks like I have frozen. I don't actually think I'm going to be able to play any of these trailers. So just bear with me. I'm going to have to leave the studio. So if you can hear me, yeah, I'll have to leave the studio and then come back in because the StreamYard has decided to be a dickhead. Right, yeah, I've just noticed that myself. Someone saying the audio is gone really robotic. Yeah, this computer just cannot handle StreamYard. But anyway, we'll leave it there before we get any more technical difficulties. I knew something was happening because it kept coming up on the screen that my broadcast was going in and out. But it has to be StreamYard. It actually has to be StreamYard because, you know, I mean, I've already got a camera in and a speakers. The Chromebook shouldn't be doing this. So it's got to be StreamYard, and they need to get their act together. Because as I said, I pay for this shit. Right, that's why I've got my own banners. Right, if you notice everybody else, they've got the duck. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Have a good one, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you soon.